venturing into the snowy land. The person, casually dressed as if heading to the beach, moves deeper into the frozen terrain. When stopped, he claims to be on a mission to fulfill the prophecy of that place. Holding a small book in his hand, he declares it an important mission. He is a solo awakener, heading toward the very same mountain as Makoto and his squad. At the camp, as Kanagi sleeps, he finds himself training in his dreams with the founders. Today's lesson is archery, meant to improve his concentration. He practices with a heavy bow under the guidance of Margit, who is instructing him. Noticing Kanagi sweating, Margit asks if it's painful to keep his focus steady. As they train, Hinoki loudly complains about why it isn't a sword training day, but the mage quickly silences him, reminding him that it was his turn the previous day. Despite the noise, Margit is impressed that Kanagi remains undisturbed, showing significant improvement in maintaining his concentration compared to their first session. Kanagi explains that he is currently on a mission with an amazing team, which motivates him to give his best. With his focus locked on the target, he releases the arrow, hitting the bullseye with perfect accuracy. Margit is amazed by the precision, while Kanagi drops to the ground, sighing in relief. Margit reminds him not to forget the feeling and calls it a day for training. Realizing that the session is over, Hinoki gets excited, immediately drawing his sword and ordering Kanagi to get up for sword training. However, just as they are about to start, Kanagi is suddenly awakened by his crew as it's time to continue their journey. Before setting off, Makoto briefs everyone, stating that today, they will slay the boss tied to the prophecy. As they venture ahead, they encounter more monsters. This time, a flock of blue birds. As the squad charges toward them, the founders within Kanagi comment on how easy this mission should be, given the team's strength. However, the mage notices that one of the older founders appears uneasy, sensing that something is off about the fight. After a fierce battle, the crew successfully clears the monsters, clearing their path forward. Makoto then orders Jikaru to scout ahead. Jikaru reports that approximately 2,000 meters from their position, there is likely a major boss, and it is heading straight for them. He then delivers horrifying news that the monster will reach them in just 10 seconds. Within moments, a towering figure known as the unknown god Calamitas comes rushing toward them with a ferocious, maniacal expression. Her aura is completely different from any monster they have faced before. Makoto immediately orders his crew to engage, and they all flash toward the boss in perfect coordination. Jikaru uses his abilities to shackle the creature while Kashi slashes at it from all angles. However, to their shock, their attacks leave no visible damage. The boss remains completely unscathed, despite their well-executed combo. Just as the boss is about to counterattack, it suddenly senses something approaching from above. It's Kanagi, descending with a powerful sword strike. Remembering what Akane and Hinoki taught him about executing a vertical slash, he unleashes his strongest attack first, ready to strike with full force. Combining his power, Kanagi attacks with his blazing fire-cutting blade, sending a beam of fire toward the boss. However, to his shock, it has no effect. The boss immediately counters, swinging her own sword and sending Kanagi crashing into the ground. Hearing the powerful impact, Jikaru momentarily believes Kanagi has just died. However, Kanagi survives, having landed on an ice crystal that cushions his fall. Meanwhile, Kashi, still fighting, realizes why this boss is ranked number 1. She glances toward Makoto. It is now up to him to save them. Makoto draws his sword, and as he does, Jikaru instantly shackles Kanagi and lifts him out of the fight, claiming that if they interfere, they will only get in their captain's way. As they retreat, the boss swings at Makoto with all her might. The sheer force of the attack creates a powerful shockwave, making Kanagi worry for Makoto's safety. However, to his astonishment, Makoto stops the attack inches away from hitting him. The boss swings again, and once more, Makoto blocks it effortlessly. Without hesitation, he counters with a devastating slash, severing one of the boss's arms. Watching this, Hinoki is beyond impressed, exclaiming that he wants to do the same. However, Kanagi, growing concerned, firmly refuses to let Hinoki take over his body. Meanwhile, standing before the wounded boss, Makoto calmly declares that he had wanted his crew to gain experience fighting a boss of this level. But now, he will end it himself. Hearing this, his crew quickly deploys a barrier around them for protection. As soon as the barrier is up, Makoto channels his red dragon skill into his sword, unleashing blazing flames all around. He then combines it with crimson light, sending a massive inferno straight at the boss, which obliterates nearly half of her body. Kanagi, witnessing this, is utterly shocked. Makoto used a sword flame technique similar to his own, but it was far stronger. Without the protective barrier, they all might have been reduced to ashes. Kanagi quietly apologizes to the boss, saying it was his duty to protect the world. Then, out of nowhere, he meows like a cat, causing an unbearable wave of secondhand embarrassment to wash over everyone. Observing the battle closely, Kanagi realizes that Makoto's technique is vastly different from Hinoki's. His skills are truly on another level. Amazed, Kanagi now deeply desires to learn from him. Meanwhile, Makoto delivers a final follow-up slash, cutting the boss completely in half. However, in an instant, a flash of light streaks through the battlefield. Makoto's arm is suddenly severed. In disbelief, he turns, only to see a gaping hole in Jikaru's body. Kanagi frantically looks around, horror gripping him as he realizes what just happened. One by one, his comrades' bodies are being torn apart, blood spilling onto the ground. They are all dropping dead before his eyes. Kanagi, seeing Jikaru falling, rushes to help him, but with the last of his strength, Jikaru pushes him away. Stumbling backward, Kanagi watches in disbelief as the comrades he fought alongside just seconds ago are now collapsing before his eyes. Despite being on the brink of death, Jikaru is filled with regret. His radar failed to detect the incoming attack, leading to this devastating loss. As he falls, he apologizes to his captain and crashes onto the ground, hoping his team has at least seen where the attack came from. Kashi is safe, but several other members are struck by the same beam, piercing straight through them. Makoto, clutching his severed arm, yells at his team to take cover in the terrain, calling it a skill attack. Without hesitation, everyone obeys and runs for their lives. While fleeing, Kashi calls out to a fallen comrade, urging him to follow. However, he hesitates, worried about their captain, who is severely wounded. The attack that severed Makoto's arm cannot be blocked, not even by a barrier, because its properties allow it to annihilate everything it touches. Suddenly, another beam hurtles toward Makoto, but he narrowly dodges it by leaping into the air. Kashi watches in growing fear as the boss unleashes a relentless barrage of attacks while simultaneously regenerating. Realizing they must take down the boss in one decisive burst, she turns to Kanagi, only to find him kneeling on the ground, frozen in shock. Kanagi stares at the bodies of his fallen comrades, his voice barely above a whisper as he pleads with the founder Valentine, asking if she can resurrect them. However, with an embarrassed expression, Valentine apologizes. She cannot bring back the dead. Kanagi falls silent for a moment, then takes a deep breath. He calls upon all the founders, admitting that while he wanted to handle everything himself this time, he now realizes he may need their help once again. Without hesitation, Hinoki steps forward and takes control of his body. Meanwhile, Makoto, analyzing the attack, realizes that it completely bypassed Jakaru's radar. Since Jakaru's radar can only detect threats within a 3-kilometer range, the attack must have originated from beyond that distance. This single strike not only killed Jakaru but also severed Makoto's arm, proof that their hidden enemy is at least as strong as he is. Determined not to let his fallen comrade's sacrifices be in vain, Makoto pushes beyond his current limits, channeling power far beyond his normal capacity. He focuses his energy, using his heightened senses to pinpoint a location over 3 kilometers away, despite the obstacles concealing the enemy. Clenching his sword, he remembers those who have fallen today. Their deaths fuel his resolve. With unwavering determination, Makoto charges his blade with crimson light and unleashes a devastating blaze of fire. The scorching inferno rips through the ground, obliterating everything in its path, until, at last, it reveals the enemy who cast the deadly spell. It is the same boy who arrived there alone, casually dressed. He is impressed that Makoto managed to track him down after his attack, just as expected from the captain of the strongest squad. However, Makoto is shocked. His attack was completely consumed by this man. The boy claims that if Makoto still had his left arm intact, that attack would have killed him. He is using a spell called Darkness to channel dark orbs around him. As he walks toward Makoto, he launches one of the orbs with the intent to kill. In response, Makoto swings his sword, conjuring an ice barrier. He then counters in an instant, vanishing and reappearing behind the boy, slashing at his neck. But before Makoto can process what just happened, the same devastating beam attack strikes again, tearing a chunk off his torso. The boy remains unharmed, calmly stating that he had anticipated Makoto's attack. However, he adds that Makoto is the one truly close to death. That comment ignites Makoto's rage. With what little strength he has left, he lunges forward, swinging his sword. But the boy effortlessly sidesteps and counters with a powerful kick, landing a direct hit on Makoto's open wound. However, Makoto is one step ahead. Using the opening, he strikes with the back of his sword, sending the boy crashing into the ground. As Makoto watches, he becomes curious. Why did the boy stop using his beam attack after only a few shots? Despite its overwhelming power, it seems he cannot sustain it indefinitely. Realization dawns on him. The boy cannot use his spell continuously. In terms of endurance, they are evenly matched. The boy, after crashing, manages to land on his feet, confirming Makoto's suspicion, but pointing out that they are not in the same condition. Makoto is at a clear disadvantage, one arm severed, half his body missing. However, our Chad Makoto refuses to acknowledge the concept of a disadvantage. He recalls the 3 rules of the Makoto squad, drawing strength from them. Determination floods his body as he readies himself to fight until his last breath. With unwavering resolve, he channels electric fiery energy, burning his own wounds to cauterize them and stop the bleeding. As he does, he roars the squad's 3rd rule into the battlefield. Overcome your weakness. With those words, he unleashes Scarlet Blaze. The boy's eyes narrow. He realizes that Makoto is burning away his own life force to amplify his power. In response, he does the same, fueling his darkness spell with his very essence. Makoto, calling upon the spirits of his fallen comrades, glares at his opponent. His voice booms across the battlefield, warning him not to look down on his squad. Meanwhile, in the back, as Kanagi calls upon his funders for help, his hair turns white as Hinoki takes control of him. The other squad members, who are still running, are suddenly stopped by the boss, who remains strong as she regenerates her arms. Kashi, witnessing this, grows concerned, realizing she cannot subjugate the boss alone. She calls out to Kanagi, who is still kneeling in the back. To her, it seems as though his fighting spirit has completely faded after witnessing his squad members' deaths. It is only natural. He was just an ordinary person who recently joined the squad. However, to her shock, Kanagi rises from the ground. In a blinding flash, he dashes forward and lands a devastating kick on the boss, sending her flying. On the other side of the battlefield, Makoto and his opponent continue their fierce exchange, trading blow after blow. Makoto, wielding only half of his sword, unleashes Scarlet Light. The opponent barely dodges by leaning to the side. Despite evading the attack, he grows uneasy. It is getting harder. Makoto's flames, which should have been erased by his darkness spell, are re-emerging and striking him again. Furthermore, there is a limit to how much he can control his darkness manually, and that limit is approaching. Realizing this, he sends a barrage of darkness orbs at Makoto. But Makoto swiftly dodges, seizing an opening to lunge forward and slash his opponent's arm clean off. Now their positions are reversed. However, despite losing his arm, the opponent leaps forward and drives his knee into Makoto's wounded arm. Makoto collapses to the ground in pain as the opponent slowly approaches. Looking down at him, he claims that losing an arm means nothing. After all, there is still a hole in Makoto's stomach. He then reveals something chilling. He had already anticipated Makoto's strategy. From the very first attack, he knew Makoto would engage in close combat. He acknowledges Makoto's strength, admitting that he always makes the best decisions and never wastes time. However, he also points out Makoto's flaw. He is too predictable. That, he declares, is the reason why Makoto will lose. Reaching into his bag, he pulls out a book. Holding it up, he claims that Makoto's defeat has already been decided by its contents. Makoto's eyes widen in shock as he recognizes it as the Book of Doom. The opponent opens the book, revealing a startling truth. The guy claims that if there is an organization that exists to stop prophecies, then it is only natural that another exists to fulfill them. Makoto is stunned as he never knew such an organization existed. The opponent then makes his final revelation that he is one of the 12 apostles of the apocalypse. He introduces himself as the 12th of darkness, the one destined to fulfill the prophecy. Makoto, still in disbelief, questions the reason behind his obsession with bringing about destruction. The opponent, flipping through the pages of the book, smirks and asks if he reveals will Makoto forgive him. Makoto is enraged by the mockery. Without hesitation, he swings his sword with all his might, nearly severing the opponent's shoulder. Makoto is confident that he can win this battle, as his opponent appears to be out of mana, and his body seems to be reaching its limit. Makoto channels the red dragon form, convinced that it will secure his victory. On the other hand, the guy, with his shoulder nearly severed, is still standing, declaring that this is Makoto's end. With that, he takes out a potion and drinks it, unleashing a flashy burst of light. The light blinds Makoto, and suddenly, within that brilliance, a powerful fist strikes Makoto's face, sending him crashing to the ground. As the dust settles, Makoto is in disbelief, seeing that all the damage he inflicted on the guy has been healed, and his opponent is back to full strength. The guy claims that the potion he used is an artifact, which allowed him to heal completely. With one arm, Makoto uses his scarlet light blade again, sending a sword wave toward the guy. However, the guy disperses it with his darkness orbs and counters with a barrage of attacks. Makoto is left in shock, as the artifact the guy used is supposed to be controlled by countries due to how overpowered it is, and no ordinary organization should be able to possess one. The guy kicks Makoto in his gut wound, sending him to the ground, where he takes his final breaths. Seeing Makoto beaten, the guy lets out a sigh of relief, believing he has finally defeated him. Meanwhile, Makoto, remembering his childhood and his comrades, tries to reach for his sword. He also recalls Kanagi's words about treating his brother like his cat, which brings a smile to his bloodied face. With renewed determination, he picks up his sword, but as he is about to swing it, a darkness beam hits him, completely severing the hand holding the sword. The guy, with a confident tone, bids Makoto his final goodbye. However, just as he is about to deliver the finishing blow, someone arrives, parting the crystal behind him. It's Kanagi, backed up by all the founders, ready to get their revenge on the guy who made their disciple cry. Makoto notices Kanagi's presence and is initially worried, but soon realizes that it's not just Kanagi. Something else is emanating from him. The guy also notices the abnormality and the aura radiating from Kanagi. The boy in front of him no longer appears as a vulnerable target, but as an existence that will fiercely defend himself. Growing worried, the guy warns Kanagi not to move, threatening to kill Makoto if he does. However, as he speaks, his arm is severed from his body in a flash. The guy is shocked, unable to comprehend how it happened so quickly. Meanwhile, Kanagi simply swings his sword from a distance, the force of the strike even dulling his blade. The founders notice this, surprised that the sword dulled after just one strike. The alchemist founder steps in, transmuting multiple weapons for Kanagi to use in the fight. With pure vengeance in his eyes, Kanagi orders every founder to unleash hell on the guy. Meanwhile, the guy completely regenerates his arm, which shocks Hinoki. The mage founder explains it as reversal, a skill she didn't expect a modern awakener to possess. She speculates that the artifact he used continuously heals his wounds until its effect wears off. As she speaks, Kanagi launches an arrow that strikes the guy directly in the head. The guy didn't see it coming, but he regenerates the wound instantly. Seeing this, one of the founders asks the mage how they can kill the guy. She reveals that they must kill him repeatedly until he eventually dies. The guy uses his darkness spell as Kanagi loads another arrow. When Kanagi releases the arrow, the darkness spell tries to intercept it, but the arrow pierces through, striking the guy in the chest and head. The archer founder mocks the guy, asking if he truly believed he could stop his arrows. The guy regenerates his wounds and counters with a darkness orb's attack. Kanagi, using the founder's evasive powers, dodges the attack and flashes toward the guy, kicking him in the face. He then grabs the guy's hand and delivers a palm strike to his face. One of the founders notices that the guy can't use his annihilation beam attack if his vision is blocked by his own orbs, which works in their favor. Dodging the attack becomes easier because of this. Kanagi delivers a powerful blow to the guy's gut, sending him crashing to the ground. The founders wonder how many times they'll have to watch the same guy die and regenerate. Meanwhile, Kanagi walks over to Makoto, who, in his beaten state, asks if he is truly Kanagi. Kanagi denies it, explaining that the founders are using his body as heroic spirits. Using Valentine's healing power preservation, Kanagi begins healing Makoto's arms. As he heals, Kanagi reveals that they are in a hurry and must act quickly. Seeing Kanagi leave, Makoto understands that it's the founders who are in control. A short distance away, the guy gets back up, shocked that his spells are being dodged and countered so effortlessly. Without giving him time to think, Kanagi attacks him with a spear, piercing straight through his heart. The guy is relentlessly attacked, dying repeatedly without a moment to recover. One of the founders asks the mage if keeping the spear in the guy's heart will prevent him from regenerating. However, the spear passes through his body, and he begins to regenerate again. As the guy starts to recover, Kanagi delivers a powerful kick from above, crashing him back to the ground. Kanagi wonders which body parts regenerate first if they completely destroy his body. The guy begins regenerating from his hand, but by the time his full body is restored, he is gasping and exhausted. He is being obliterated but refuses to let a boy stop him. Deciding to kill Makoto and escape, he rushes toward him, only to find Kanagi already sitting there, guarding Makoto. With a maniacal smile, Kanagi reveals that he is too late. Hinoki then takes control of Kanagi's body and, using his sword style, completely cuts the guy's body into pieces. Even though the guy is obliterated, he doesn't fear death, as he believes he is fulfilling a prophecy. However, his resolve begins to waver in the face of something as terrifying as Kanagi. As the guy regenerates again, he tries to remind himself of his mission to fulfill the prophecy, refusing to let fear overcome him. He reaches for another artifact in his bag, but before he can use it, Kanagi cuts off his arm. The artifact scatters to the ground, creating a powerful golden cage around Kanagi called the Sand Cage of Time. The regeneration effect on the guy ends, and he is unable to regenerate his arm. Relieved, the guy believes he has barely made it. The founders, seeing the cage, grow concerned, wondering what to do next since the guy's regeneration is nearly over. The guy, standing outside the cage, claims that even his darkness can't destroy the cage, so Kanagi can't kill him from within. With a nervous expression, he declares that he is going to leave, but before he can finish his sentence, Hinoki yells at him to watch closely. Suddenly, the guy feels a strong aura behind him and turns to see Makoto standing on his own 2 feet, still regenerating. How is Makoto that much of a Chad and overpowered? Well, it all goes back to his childhood when he trained with the best, Midori. Even Midori lost to Makoto in a sword fight, which led him to suggest that Makoto find a better master to continue his training. Following the advice of the world's strongest awakener, Makoto searched for masters to become a disciple of those at the highest level. However, he surpassed every master he encountered, whether they taught him swordsmanship, magic, or agility. Every master gave up on him in less than a month. One of the masters recommended him to the strongest swordsman they knew at the time, Hinoki Ichika, the little sister of Hinoki. Ichika became Makoto's final master, and he trained under her for about 3 years. One day, while training with Ichika, Makoto asked about a sword technique mentioned in a book called Indomitable. Even Ichika couldn't figure out how the technique worked, claiming that it was a skill only Hinoki, the founder, could use. Makoto found it fascinating, as he had read about it in the book. However, Ichika soon realized she had nothing left to teach Makoto, as he had already mastered Hinoki's one-handed sword style. Makoto wanted to grow even stronger, but Ichika didn't know how he could progress further. She compared him to an unblooming bud, stating that even with all his training, blooming in this lifetime would be difficult for him. She hoped that one day, a stronger swordsman would appear before him. In the present, Makoto realizes that this moment is happening right before his eyes. He notices Kanagi using sword techniques he didn't even know existed. According to Ichika, such an opportunity might come only once in a lifetime, and he shouldn't miss it. Grateful for the chance, Makoto thanks Ichika in his heart and begins touching his severed arms together. Seeing this, all the founders are confused about what he's trying to do. Kanagi is also worried about his captain, who is outside the cage with the enemy. Makoto begins emitting the same aura as Kanagi. Meanwhile, inside the training ground of the anti-prophecy faction, Midori, who is training with Suo, senses a powerful aura. Suddenly, an explosion rocks the area, and as the dust settles, they are shocked to see a massive hole in the wall, and Midori is gone. Back on the battlefield, the guy is confused, seeing Makoto able to perform such a feat despite his condition. He is certain that he will be cut down. Witnessing this, Hinoki explains to Kanagi that people are like flowers, blooming at their true potential when they reach their peak, whether physically, spiritually, or through mastering an ultimate technique. For Makoto, this is the moment of his true potential. Hinoki, standing behind Kanagi, advises him to engrave what he sees deep in his mind. Kanagi realizes what Hinoki is trying to say. Like a blooming flower, Makoto lifts his arms as if holding a sword and, with unwavering determination, manages to use Hinoki's one-handed sword style's lost technique, Indomitable, the very technique he read about in the book. Even though the guy's darkness defenses are flawlessly activated, his body is cut in half without Makoto even wielding a physical sword. The guy wonders if this is the time and place where he will meet his end. As his body falls apart, Hinoki praises Makoto for materializing a sword that existed only in his mind. Meanwhile, Makoto, though standing in a state of confusion, feels that he has finally become the swordsman he always aspired to be. He considers it a blessing to have spent time with his family, friends, comrades, and subordinates. Every experience he's had has made him stronger. Even if this is his end, he remembers his little brother and his cat, apologizing to them in his heart. As he is about to lose consciousness, he sees Kanagi walking toward him, lending a hand with a smile. Seeing this, Makoto realizes that this death might not be the end, as he can still leave his legacy to the next generation through Kanagi. Grabbing Kanagi's hand, he thanks him and collapses to the ground. As the cage vanishes after the guy's defeat, Kanagi rushes toward his captain, feeling a deep connection through the crest of nothingness. All the other comrades lie lifeless on the ground, but as Makoto is about to join them, Midori comes flying in. He grabs Makoto just in time as he falls. Makoto dies in Midori's arms at the age of 23. After
our video ends here. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, bye bye.